BetterCallZaal.
Okay, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of BetterCallZaal YapZ. We're here with episode 5 with Sven from Incented. Really excited to have you here today, Sven. How you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. Quite excited about what we're going to talk about today. Well, other than my own thing, but what we're doing with my thing is going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, 1,000,000%. I'm really excited to chat about Incented, about what we're going to be doing here today and what we're showcasing. But why don't you just give us a little background on yourself? Like, how did you come into this like Web3 world? What's your background? And share with us a little bit more about yourself, Sven.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm just like a random nerd living in the desert, really. So don't pay too much attention to me or what I'm saying. But if anything I do say sounds interesting, I'm always open to riff on it more. And I live in the States by way of Germany, and really got to Web3 because, as many of us in the early days of COVID, I started reflecting on my life and what I want to do with it. At the time, I had a company that was in the advertising space, and ads are part of the devil's plan, really, with consumerism and all that. But that's a whole different story for a different day. And I decided that I really want to focus on, startups, team building, helping other founders, which was always a passion of mine. And asked myself questions like, why are we using open collaboration principles only efficiently for open source, right, software? And I think the short answer I come up with is that we have Git, right? We have the right tooling for it. And then fast forward quite a bit of time, I dabbled in crypto because I like tech, right? I'm an engineer and a nerd by heart, like I mentioned. And I realized there's this thing called DAOs, and that people who are kind of talking the same language to me, got really excited about that, right? Like permissionless, autonomous team building, working toward common goals, got me really excited, and ran a bunch of experiments in the space. I had a podcast about DAOs for a while, and eventually landed on the problem statement around human coordination, right? Like ultimately, it's all about finding consensus to work towards whatever our common goal might be. Is that's an open source project, if that's an artistic project, or if that's founding a company together, right? Or anywhere in between. And long story short, we basically settled on a protocol approach that we believe pretty strongly that we need to incentivize and reward everyone involved in any type of project, really, because most of us do not have the luxury of having been very early in crypto and having bags that we can rely on. So, there's opportunity costs we need to consider, and participation in any project, if it's at all serious and more than a hobby that you just hop into whenever you have time, you should be rewarded for that, right? And that sort of informs what has become the mission statement of my life, and in turn for my company, which is that I want to live in a world where everyone can work on whatever they're most passionate about while being rewarded equitably for their efforts. If you heard me talk before, I say that every single time I speak, because that informs everything we do, and why we were building Incented.
Amazing. I love it. I like that it's that boiled down to that sentence. I think that's a really important challenge that I've gotten very excited about exploring in now the crypto and blockchain space. I was never into quote unquote politics before. I actually wanted to say the farthest thing away from it, but I realized it's because there is so much challenges there with like toxic human coordination, right? Like in a sense. But like that human coordination, and then like you look at like big corporate companies. I've worked for a couple big corporate companies, and now in the crypto space, I'm getting more involved with startups and seeing like big differences in, I mean, pros and cons on both sides, right? Like with human coordination specifically, it a lot of the time boils down to communication between individuals, and human coordination communication is one of the many things that like involve that human coordination layer. So I'm excited to see how we can build in this interoperable world together so that we can build tools for people to build coordination layers that all the people in the future that come into can try out and be a part of. And I love that you guys are trying to bring that goal of doing what you feel most passionate about and finding a way to reward those individuals about it. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about Incented?
Yeah, so again, the core idea here is to usher in or do our part to usher in the world, the future of work, right? Like we sometimes call it. I mean, if you look back over the course of our lives, even it has changed so much, right? Like my parents, they for the large part, like that generation, they got lucky. They found a company. They stayed with that company for the rest of their lives, right? Like that's never been true in our life, and it has evolved so much since, especially with the advent of the internet and now Web3 and AI and what have you. How we earn a living, quote unquote, will change drastically, right? And I mean, how much better of a world could it be than you just actually do what you enjoy, and being paid is sort of a byproduct, right? I don't know if we can quite get it to that level, but that's the point, right? So it starts with, for Incented, it starts with that everything needs to be incentivized, hence the name of the company, right? So even making decisions, voting on questions, right? So let's start with the lowest layer of finding consensus around anything is we have some sort of question. Let's pick a simple one. What should we post on Twitter tomorrow, right? Well, how do we agree, right? And now, of course, with smart contracts, we have programmatic approaches to encode that kind of process to find consensus, and many people have built many cool systems around that over the last couple of years. But what I think is that we over indexed on the incentive side, and we forgot about the disincentive, and in turn the alignment of the intention of a contributor to what the actual goal is, right? Because in crypto especially, like you have all these airdrops come in, do something, we airdrop you some stuff, but no one cares actually about what they're interacting with, right? They're just coming there for the tokens, and that's a problem. So what we build is basically the carrot and stick mechanism. So everything's incentivized, even voting on anything, right? You can get, usually this is all configurable, of course, because we're a protocol, but you can get an upside by just choosing voting for or against certain applications or submissions, and being rewarded for that, right? And the stick is, if you're making a wrong decision, if you're coming in and making uninformed decisions in a community you don't know anything about, we slash your voting stake, essentially. Basically,
Well
that's
said.
simple.
Boom. I think the beautiful thing about incentives is that they drive a lot of people in, but the retention is really low with a lot of crypto places out there. I think the incented model works really well to help prevent people from just coming in for the sake of that and then continuing to act in that way. They'll either have to leave or adapt, right? And I think there's a lot of people that are willing to adapt, but they just don't necessarily know why they or what other opportunities are out there other than going, spam crazy in XYZ places, or like that's the way they know how to make money in the space versus like adding something that is of value rather than just being out there being a brand ambassador for another brand that's not that individual's. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to see more of Incented and have our first incented program with the ZAO. I think it's going to be really fun. We're going to hopefully be one of many communities in here that starts programs, because I know there's a couple really cool ones in mind that could do some cool things. But we'll share. I'll let Sven share a little bit more about the specific application and how it all works, and then we'll go over to my screen for an example demo of how to submit. Oh, you're muted.
Unmuting helps. Yeah, I just pulled this up while you were talking because I think we wanted to show a little bit, right? So, because like theory is always fun, but what the fuck does that actually? Excuse my language, but what does that actually mean in the real world? So what we're looking at is just our platform right now that sits on top of our protocol, and you get there by just going to incented.co, click the button or /explore. And what I wanted to start with, so these are the different programs. There's 2 currently live, and there's already a sneak peek, and 2 have settled on since we launched. And I want to show off what we currently have live as kind of our own dog fooding program, right? Which we launched is the Coordinated Creation Challenge, right? A very simple use case here, basically decentralizing asset generation for our social channels, right? So we have, I'm not going to go through all of this. Don't worry, if you're watching, you don't have to read all of this. You can, it's pretty straightforward if you are interested in participating in this. But in a nutshell, we are putting the call out to the community to create anything creative that is aligned with our brand or mission or what we're doing overall, and submit that, right? So we're currently in cycle number 9. Our cycles are very fast. They're 2 days of submission each, 2 days of voting. And so every 4 days, we want to reward 4 people for their creations, right? And they're in our program, they're making $5 each, right? 5 USDC. And so right now we have, like, this one's kind of cute, right? Someone created an image of, a bunny who gets the point of carrots, right? Obviously the carrots are our logo, that's the incentive. And at the end of this submission period, we'd be voting on all of these, right? So our token is the seed token. We're also incentivizing voting, as I mentioned. This doesn't have to be part of the program. But if you're voting here, if you have seeds and you vote on any of these, either for or against, you can win additional seeds, right? 50 seeds per cycle. And I don't know, if you look back, like some of these cycles, like it's really cool what people come up with. Here we had 6 submissions, 4 winners. And like one of my favorites is this manifesto, kind of this hacker manifesto inspired, like riff on Incented, sort of like very poetic kind of way of talking about what Incented is about. Super cool. So you just get like these things you can't even imagine yet, right? It's a very creative program, and inspired by our own, ZAO took the opportunity to launch one for your own community. And that's what we're looking at here, right? So it's going live today. Submissions are open. 3 winners each cycle, weekly cycles for now, 2 weeks to start. And then we'll see how successful we are, if we go further or not. But ZAO committed $30 per cycle. So 3 of you out there who will come up with something cool about the Sabal will win $10 each.
Amazing. Yeah, no, you said it awesome. I'm very excited to rock it out with everyone and see what people submit. I'm going to show an example of how to submit as well. So show that it's super easy, and really want to see what people want to dive more into. And I think after our first 2 weeks here, and after we do a test, we can definitely iterate and continue in specific content veins. I think that'll be really fun. So yeah, let's get incented, and I'll share how easy it is to pop over to Incented and submit.
While you're pulling this up, and we have the white and dark theme, of course. Fun to see that your system settings are on white.
Yeah. Let me go back to the main page just so I can show it, but I have filled out, I think you had it right there. There was a submit,
on the upper
content
right,
in the upper right. And I've pre-filled out some of this information to make it a little easier. So you have an option to add a banner image for your banner. Make sure you add in your wallet address for the rewards, your title. You can see that you can do different fonts with the markdown format here in your summary. You can submit links. So I'm only submitting a link here, but you can also add files, and make sure you share what project type you have, and it's that easy. We're going to submit this application, and boom, that's all it takes. Let's see it. So that's the submission right there. We can go to the main page and see it there. So definitely make sure you guys get your submissions in so that this one doesn't win. And I appreciate everyone who
You
does.
can vote against it too. So.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So actually,
Yeah.
I want to mention what's important maybe for the people who consider submitting to this, right? So as of now, this is a project kind of in the ZAO BetterCallZaal universe, and you decided to just let the existing community members, specifically ZAO token holders, vote on this, right? And I think we're planning on maybe doing a space on Monday or Tuesday as we get into voting, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that all works, but should be pretty straightforward. You know, if anyone has any trouble, reach out to me or Zal, and we'll guide you through it. And if you
Perfect.
find bugs, also let me know. Get you some seeds for that and reward everyone.
Amazing. I love it. Do you want to add any last things after before we get off and get ready to see what people submit and come back to meet for the voting?
Yeah, well, I'm super excited to see what's coming out of your community, right? Like so far, we had we still have a ton of fun in our own program, which runs till February. But maybe what would be fun to talk about for just a minute or two is the kind of the breadth we put into our product so far. I'm an engineer, as mentioned before. I have a tendency to over-engineer things for better or worse, and so we can launch quite a few different kinds of programs already. So for anyone who thinks this is cool and wants to chat afterwards about maybe doing their own thing, right? Besides these kind of co-creation challenges, what are other use cases we can handle really well are sort of grant funding decisions. Maybe, you know, if you're wanting to like reward people for just submitting proposals, right? RFP kind of programs where maybe you're an ecosystem or a community and you have a couple things in mind that you want built, but you don't have anyone to build it. We can structure milestone-based programs where people submit their take on how they would implement it. We can do like sort of portfolio management type programs, and we have different award systems. So your program is a top 3, right? So we can either decide on who wins by a finite number. We always want to reward 3, or we could say we do that by quorum, right? So by net vote, anyone over 51% or 75% you can pick becomes a winner. And then how they get awarded or what they get awarded with, we can configure pretty flexibly as well. So for Zal's program, it's a fixed price, and that can be milestone based, where in an RFP style, right, like applicants would define themselves how much they would require to execute on whatever they're proposing. And then it's up to the people who vote and review these proposals to make sure that that makes sense, right? Like, so your existing community members, they're obviously aligned with making sure that, you know, someone isn't asking $1 million for like a landing page or something. And we can split the award pool, right? So there's an award pool always per cycle, and we can either split that proportionally by the amount of votes, net positive votes they received, or split it equally amongst all the winners. So we have like 8 different configurations of programs, and then the intent of the program is always just described in the program itself.
Well said. I like how you put it at the beginning. It's a protocol. We love seeing and building on top of protocols here at the ZAO and now the Zabal as well. Because the cool thing about protocols is you can build something that someone else can come in with a great idea and build something that wouldn't have been possible from just you. And that's the coolest thing. So I'm excited to try out some of these other toolings. I think maybe for the next one we can do something along the lines of, you know, it's split by the whole group but based on yes versus no, because then people are incentivized to like, okay, like these are not just say yes to everyone, but like these are like not quality submissions or not highest quality as some of these other ones, right? And I think that could be really cool as well. And continuing to use the ZAO token will be really fun as a use case for our community of like actually deciding some of these things. So definitely going to play around with the Zabal token after we create it and start playing around with more of these things here. But I'm excited to see how these first 2 submission series go and then see how we can iterate from there.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's all about empowering your community to do more for what they believe in, right? And I think certainly the 2 of us are aligned on that people should be rewarded if they deliver quality work, or whatever that work means to them or for your program. And if we can award people to not just bandwagon, like don't just agree with what people seem to do. Oh, by the way, this is configurable as well in our system, right? That voting is private. It can be public, can be semi-private, can be private, so that you cannot do that, right? Like
What's
ideally,
semi-private?
so you just see the stats. Like there's actually
Okay.
4 different levels. You can either just see the stats of how much overall voting is going on, or you could see who voted but not in which direction, or you could see
Yeah, we
everything.
might need to. Yeah, I have a couple ideas for other campaigns that now we can launch that, or maybe aren't ZBall related, but some of the things that we're doing out here that it could be really fun to just, even if it's like a super low reward of a token, have something for like, there's currently, yeah, we could chat more about it after, but I'm excited to play around with Incented more and ideate with my community now, like what they're going to do and what they want us to now iterate on, because there's going to be so many cool things that we're going to be able to rock out for it. And I appreciate you for building something that you really believe in. And I think that having that vision behind your personal ethos and your company is a huge part of like this space, and being like able to be consistent and just be yourself, your true authentic self. And I think Web3 brings that out a lot. So
Yeah.
shout out to you, Sven, for cooking this up, spending the time with me, spending the time with us today. And I just want to say I appreciate you. And yeah, let's get incented.
Thank you so much for having me. Really means a lot. I think people who understand that, you should be driven by something more than money, I think is automatically something that I resonate with. And I don't know if, like, not to be the negative Nancy at the end of the call, but if money is what gets you out of bed in the morning, maybe you rethink your values, and grow up a little.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the challenge of the crypto space as well, more than anything. It's the most consumerism is its biggest everywhere, but then the dollar value of everything in crypto makes the consumerism even more insane there. So
Yeah.
I like the way you're doing it, where you're including that, but then you're trying to add every single thing on top of that initial, just like, okay, there's a dollar value here, but then you do this, you do that, you do these other pieces of the puzzle, that now it's not just a dollar value, and like people are incentivized to attack different things based on their interests, right?
Yep.
Well, thank you
Well
for
said.
coming on, Sven. I hope you guys submit some really cool things. I'm excited to see it, and I will see you again here soon as we get to the voting period. Thank you, Sven.
Awesome. Thanks, Sal.